But then you have like modded servers where someone, a
So
kid,
many.
8 years old, 10 years old maybe, has changed the settings so that there are, every time there's a tank, which is like every 10 steps, there are 3 of them. We played through a whole campaign in that modded server.
Welcome to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where 3 guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name is Kenny.
Nolan.
And this is episode 407, and it is a director's episode!
Hey!
Before we bring in our special guest, I have a question of the week. What is the most slept on video game soundtrack?
This was such a hard question for me. I'm not generally a soundtrack guy. I love a good soundtrack when it's there. I don't like go out and listen to OSTs just on my own. So I had to try and come up with something that maybe wouldn't be as popular but is good in stuff that I play and I'm familiar with. That's a lot of caveats. I don't think this is slept on, but you don't hear about it as like something people listen to as an OST.
You're still
So I'll say-
caveating.
I know. I'll say music from the Civ series, like Civilization 5, Civilization 6, even before that.
Like the farming
they don't tend
beat?
to be. Yeah, they don't tend to be as melodic. They tend to be more like filler. But you get some really cool like world influence because you're getting music from like a bunch of different cultural areas, and it gives them a lot of creativity in doing things musically that are good enough to be on repeat for a long time and have a lot of different musical influence.
Bro said the Civ soundtrack.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm gonna just.
I
Pull
mean,
something
it's
out
certainly
my-
slept on, sure. Risk of Rain 2.
Whoa, these are out there.
Okay.
Really good soundtrack that
it?
a lot of people don't talk about. It's a great soundtrack.
I don't think people talk about Risk of Rain just in general.
You don't
it's
because
it's a pretty niche game.
you don't understand the game, but it's a really good game and the soundtrack's good.
My submission is a game that we have all played. We've also played it on the podcast. The game is talked about every once in a while, but not for its soundtrack often, just for its absurdity. We also have apparel that features this game. I'm talking about Echo the Dolphin. Go back, listen to that
Okay.
soundtrack. Yeah, very
remember.
atmospheric. And it starts like the game, very pleasant, and the music gets very creepy atmosphere
Sci-fi?
over time.
Yeah.
It's about I don't recall, a little over half an hour of songs, and so like that's pretty good
That's respectable, yeah.
for that game, and a variety of tracks and a few tracks that are altered in some slightly different ways. So yeah, but you can imagine it being atmospheric, right? Like you need that
Yeah.
for that kind of game.
Absolutely. When I
Aquatic.
was thinking back to games we had
Yeah.
played, trying to answer this question, that was one of the ones that came to mind. So I totally get that view. Slept on is a kind of hard definition, and people are going to answer it differently, but we want to know your answers. Is there a game you think is awesome no one else has talked about? Hop in Discord. We got an ongoing conversation just for you to have your input into Game of the Week, and we want to hear from you.
And when you join, many lovely people will welcome you with a howdy or a great to see you, maybe even a nice to eat you. Like in our retro Game of the Week, Left 4 Dead.
Overview.
Second thing second, let's welcome Riff to the show today. We're so glad that you're here with us.
Hello.
Riff, take just a moment and introduce yourself to our community and let us all know how you found New Game Plus, when you found New Game Plus, and why you found New Game Plus.
Sure. I am Riff Damashq, aka Riff, just for short. I found New Game Plus, I have to be honest, it was totally by accident. I was listening to a different video game podcast. It was their last episode, and they were, kind of signing off, and they said, "That's it for us. If you want to check out more of our content, you can catch us at New Game Plus." And I interpreted that very literally. Typed New Game Plus in the podcast app and found a bunch of guys giggling about Earthworm Jim.
Oh, it wasn't even intentional? They
No.
weren't talking about us?
No, I think
Right.
We're
No, they were
getting
just
so-
talking about like a replay of their podcast.
I think they had like a separate
go back and do
content
it
site
again.
called New Game Plus, and it was I don't know. I still don't know.
Interesting.
I turned you guys on. I'm like, these are different people. I don't know what's going on here.
They morphed. Free accidental traffic. I'll take
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, our SEO worked. It's an accidental, meme that we're hooked onto in gaming, but we're glad it brought you
Yeah.
here. Hope you've enjoyed the
Yeah,
stuff.
I'm not even caught up through the entire backlog yet. If I got to be
That's
honest,
exciting.
but I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, well,
Excellent.
you could have selected any game that was 15 years old or older, and you almost failed at that, and we'll
Yes.
talk about that. But you just barely succeeded with that. You selected a game called Left 4 Dead. Why did you choose that one?
So there are some games like Ocarina of Time, for example, I'll say, where I can play this game over and over again and have a general sense of contentment. It's like a warm blanket. Left 4
Oh, I
Dead
know.
is a very different game. Left 4 Dead, I'll finish the campaign and I have a feeling of yes, like fist pump, adrenaline. Even after as many times as I played these campaigns, I still have that sense. So when I saw that it was coming up on the 15 years, I was like, I gotta talk about this one.
Wonderful.
Left 4 Dead, for those of you that aren't familiar, is a first-person shooter game released by Valve.
Who?
So, Valve, you know Valve. This is PC gaming juggernaut. I think that's fair.
It is fair.
Justin's making faces.
I would just someone needs to be tracking the words that we use on our podcast, and I bet Juggernaut we've only used 6 times.
More, because there was a
Okay.
game that had it in the title. Bart Simpson.
Oh my goodness, Nolan is on fire
No
today.
one's got that deep lore
Well.
coming out. Also, we've played some X-Men related games, which may pull it up a few
Man.
bonus times.
That's
as
probably
well.
our most used word at this
It's our
point.
most used word at this point.
We should basically make a podcast around the word. Left 4 Dead, Left 4, the number 4. Let's be clear, if you haven't seen it written, and that's intentional. We'll talk about why they did that momentarily. Is a I said first-person shooter, but it is a first-person cooperative sort of squad-based shooter where you and 3 other survivors of a zombie apocalypse have grouped up together, and you've got to fight your way out. Not out. You've got to survive. It's zombie apocalypse. Like, it literally is self-explanatory. This game is run on Source Engine, which I think, if you're familiar at all, is interesting to know and not surprising with it coming out of Valve. Is on numerous lists of best video games of all time, and
Oh, is it?
should be an interesting one for us to talk
Yeah,
about. It
Kenny,
is,
you
yeah.
mentioned Valve being a juggernaut and a Source Engine. It- I don't think it can be appreciated enough how ridiculous Valve was in this time frame, the middle 2000s. In order, you had Half-Life 2, Portal, Team Fortress 2, Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, Portal 2, Dota 2, which, as you said, if you go to the
Yep.
Wikipedia articles for all of these games, they all contain some variation of the phrase considered one of the best video games of all time. That stretch is insane.
That
yeah.
single developer over that amount of time across I know a lot of those are sort of shooter
Yeah.
and a similar kind of vibe and sort of just stretching the engine and then putting interesting stories on it, but like especially when you include Dota in that as well, you're talking huge influence on gaming as a whole.
And when
you
you
know,
like
for a developer in a time frame.
when you put all that, when you say it out loud like that, it's really reminding me how important Valve and Left 4 Dead specifically was for my like love for gaming at that time, to like carry me from kind of like childhood Nintendo PlayStation era into like, oh, I have a PC now, and then I have this new world. It was a literal like new world of gaming that was fresh to me. And then like, I don't know how they made so many bangers back to back to back like that. That was so impressive.
It was a big deal.
We said that you barely made it with this game submission because it came out in 2008. In fact, it came out November 18th, 2008.
So we're down to like month.
At the time of this recording, it was literally a month ago when it crossed over into the 15-year-old,
The 15-year threshold
or older
Yep.
threshold.
Wow.
And so this is patently the most recent game that we've played on the show.
Yeah.
It is. A little bit more story of what you're getting into. I said zombie apocalypse. It's true. You find yourself as meeting the sort of 4 squad characters early on. You've got Bill, Zoe, Lewis, and Vic. Francis is his name. Sorry. Francis together, and they haven't caught the
ick?
green flu. Yeah, the ick, the zombification that is happening in their world, and quickly discover that these zombie-like creatures are mutating in new and dangerous ways that they hadn't expected. And so they went from sort of surviving to, oh no, now we have to survive even harder. And the story unfolds from there.
Yeah. By the way, I watched your first play, Kenny.
I'm sorry.
Well, listen. Nothing mutates in any such ways that could be more indomitable than a door. Those doors are tricky. And by the way,
boss.
the other thing I have to throw out there is that when you selected the campaign, you put the character on random. And
Yeah.
I have a particular character that I'm fond of, so I think most people kind of have one they like. But the fact that you randomly got the elderly, bearded, curmudgeonly guy, it was
Yep.
poetry to me.
Well, we'll talk about our experience later as we get into gameplay
Okay.
here in a moment. But I did get to play with the boys this week, and we all made sure we picked like appropriate characters for ourselves, and it was very much deemed not a choice that I play as Bill. So the randomizer for me did pick correctly.
Awesome.
Gameplay.
For immune survivors, and I don't know if they ever delve into that, but that's what is touted, that these 4 are impervious to the zombie disease that has broken out. I think it is good for us to start with who played who, or who gravitated towards who. To be fair, it's only for the role-playing purposes. Like, it doesn't really change up anything because you can pick up any gun.
They have abilities and unique skills.
Not in Left 4 Dead 1.
Or-
Maybe in
Not
Left
an
4 Dead 2.
Or-
So, Kenny, you already said that you were Bill, the grumpy old vet, which...
I was mostly to satisfy
Sure,
you guys.
thank you.
I think if I was picking in a void, I don't know. I would either play Bill or Zoe.
Nolan?
Well, normally I'm a certain character, but you kind of took her this week, so my main was taken this week.
Did we all want to play Zoe?
Well, Zoe's the best character.
Yes.
But my backup choice is also amazing is Lewis.
Yeah.
Grabbing peels.
Businessman. And then I played as the college student Zoe. Young millennial. I don't know if she is, but she's
Gen Z.
just the young girl in the group. And Riff, who did you play as, or who do you often play as?
Yeah, also Zoe. Zoe's the avatar I have in my Discord. I like Zoe. It's really awesome because Zoe was the voice actress is the same person who plays Cortana in the Halo series,
Interesting.
and Princess Peach, I think, in the Mario series. So I always just thought that was really cool.
Dang.
She plays PP? Wow.
She did, I think, up until a certain point.
I don't think you should say it.
I was ignoring it.
Since we're giving shout outs, Jen Taylor
Yes, exactly.
is the voice actress. So
Thanks, Jen.
props
Yeah.
to
Shout
her.
out Jen Taylor.
There are a variety of campaigns. The game it presents itself to you in episodes, in small movies, vignettes, stories that you play, and in between you get stats, scores, different things like that, and then a little bit of story connecting each individual one. My understanding is that it just came out with No Mercy, Death Toll, Dead Air, and then Blood Harvest, and then it added as free DLC, at least on PC. I think you had to pay a little bit for Xbox, but it added Crash Course, which was that second one we played because Kenny said that the helicopter needed to crash, and so we got to play that one. And then The Sacrifice, which I think is one near the end of the story. But it's basically the same thing you're doing in each one, which is surviving while you go from point A to point B to point C to point D, taking out hordes of these zombie monsters.
And when he says hordes, he means
The
hordes.
most.
I was so I've played zombie games before, and you watch zombie movies. Sorry, that's where the slip came. And you see, these like tons and tons of them running in.
Yeah.
But in a game, you generally expect it to be a little bit lighter.
Sure.
And this is not one of those like, I don't even know the genre. Like, there's a really popular sort of Asian-y genre like action set of games where you're mowing down like hundreds of enemies at a time,
Almost like a hack and slash,
third
like
person.
Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah, exactly. And I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting first person shooter. I was expecting scary but sort of Doom style, like one big scary enemy. And so the first time that I had a actual wave and they were running in and then they kept running in and they kept running in, I was so overwhelmed. It was crazy. And you get that over and over again, to the point of it kind of being the primary mechanic, because you don't even get bosses per se in this game. You get
True.
Yeah.
zombie
True.
waves.
Yeah, and I think that people that like me that played this game a lot when it came out, we kind of called the tanks the bosses because they,
Interesting.
but it's the same guy each time you come across one in the stage or in the different campaigns. But yeah, like there's No Mercy has its own unique boss that operates a certain way. It is the waves. And I love that, I love that you had the first play, Kenny. We already mentioned the door thing, but it was a very frustrating watch for me. I'll just say that much. But of course you got to play it and get stressed at the waves because that's the core. These zombies are aggressive. They're not like the kind in some games where they're like, and just like standing there.
They're not shambling zombies.
If a noise
they're fast
happens,
zombies.
they're pissed and they're gonna run at you.
Yeah,
And we said,
I'm sorry, like Kenny said, it's really getting from point A to point B to point C. Most zombie games, it's you're just trying to shoot, you're just trying to kill all the zombies, really. So for this one, if you're trying to get from point A to point B, sometimes there will be an obstacle in your way. You have to hit a button on a forklift, do some thing, whatever, and then it'll trigger a whole bunch of crazy zombies to come eat you. That's basically your boss. It's not an individual monster that's coming to destroy you. But
Stage mechanic.
Exactly. This is your boss. That you need to get past in order to continue through the stage.
And I think that's a really cool and interesting idea because the most fun that I had, and I think that most people have in this game, is mowing down hordes of zombies. And they go down relatively easy, especially if you choose the right guns. And so it's so fun to watch them just... it's hard to explain for people that haven't played it how many come at you because it is a lot. It's not Resident Evil where it's even a dozen. It's
literal thousands. It gives you a count
throughout
at the end of each chapter that you do to tell you how many zombies you mowed down. And
We're not
every chapter
we're
that we played together
in the making of that.
Yeah, there were over 1,000 zombies killed,
which is not
like,
thousands,
even the shorter
but
chapters.
If you put them all together,
It's quad dig.
Yeah.
I do want to point out because, there's not bosses. We talked about some of the boss mechanics. You've got 5 special kinds of infected, right?
Yes.
That's
your mutations, your new zombies that are the kind of challenge here.
That somewhat serve as quote unquote bosses, and they all operate differently. They're all I guess, more scary than your hordes, but some are much more scary than even the other special infected. You've got, and we can talk about some of these, but you've got witches, boomers, boomers, not Kenny. There are these other things. You've got hunters,
they're big.
smokers, and tanks.
Yeah. Now, which one of those terrifies you the most, Kenny?
Witches, easy.
Dustin?
Tanks.
Riff.
Smoker.
Okay.
Because I've played this game so many times. I can run through. There's kind of like this game where you can shoot the AI. If you want to just try and do a solo run, it's very difficult. But the one thing that'll get you is if that smoker nails you, the smoker grabs you from a rooftop or something.
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah, that's it. The rest of them you can kind of like run
Right.
away from or juke or whatever. But yeah, those scare me.
The tanks killed me most. They run in. They're basically like a massive version of the Thing from Fantastic Four. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And they pick up debris from around and
Concrete.
chunk it at you so accurately.
Yeah.
They're amazingly accurate. It freaked me
They're
out.
janky too, which makes them even harder to deal with sometimes. Like if they're near, we found out one of them kind of like clipped through a vehicle that we were using for like cover, and it just KO'd us.
And the amount of damage they soak up before finally dying, it takes the entire team. All of those other ones that we mentioned, other than the witch, the witch and the tank, it requires the team to fight off. The rest, you can. I mean, honestly, the thing that I think that this game does so well, and we can include it with this boss conversation, because I think with those, for the most part, you need at least one other person, or you need a team to be able to take these out. This game was constructed in such a way that it is co-op centric. Correct me if I'm wrong, Riff, but even if you play solo, you still have 3 AI party members?
Exactly, yeah. So
Okay.
the AI,
Yep.
and there's some strategy there, because as intimidating some of the zombies are, nothing is more dangerous than bad teammates, especially if you're playing on higher difficulty levels where there's the friendly fire really, it's one shot and you're down. So if you play with like another person and then maybe 2 AI, the AI, they're not that great in some ways that we may talk about, but they don't friendly fire. They have pretty good accuracy in some ways. So, it's actually, you can kind of mix and match your human players and your AI to kind of come up with an interesting team.
Well, it's always been really cool to me that this game is multiplayer first. There aren't a lot of games in that category that were super successful like this, but the fact that it's meant for co-op, it's best played with friends, and even still you can get in a match with other people if you want, and so that's amazing to me.
Dustin alluded to this, but even the design of these creatures is designed around making co-op an important part of what you do. Because the way a witch will target one person
that shoots it first,
and zone in on them, whoever shoots it. Like if you have one person off playing hero and by themselves and shoots this strong enemy and doesn't have the support to kill it and gets soloed out, you're out of luck. If you try and take on a tank and you don't want to take a long time to kill it, or be totally on your game or use environments or whatever else, by yourself, it's going to take you an obscene amount of time. You need the whole team to kill it. If you get attacked by a smoker, it's going to literally isolate you by grabbing you and pulling you out of the fight. Your teammates have to save you. So they leaned into this squad-centric design so hard, and it's lovely.
And Kenny, that goes even further to, not just the special infected as enemies, but also the special infected as you can play as them in the versus mode. I think mostly we focused on the campaign this week, where you're playing as survivors killing the zombies, but there's a versus mode where you kind of swap back and forth and you can play as the zombies, the special infected, and you can come up with these synergies of, I'm the smoker, I'm going to grab him from a rooftop, and then I'm going to have my teammate is a boomer, he's going to barf on him while they're hanging there. You can come up with all these combinations in the same way that you have to kind of fight against the combinations.
And it's not even the teamwork required for the special infected. You can heal each other. You can pick each other off of ledges. You don't really. immediately fall to your death if you're going up and you fall. Your character hangs on, but has to be picked up by someone else. You can and then the casual, like, protecting each other's sixes, which that's terminology for like elite gamers and military personnel.
Okay.
But like the only time that you're truly in danger is when you're playing as Lewis, for example, and you run off far in front of the rest of your team
Stop.
because you've played this game before and think that you're better than everybody and don't have to do team related things.
Oh,
And it's
boy.
interesting that when that person also has their stats backed up at the end of the campaign at the top of
Right.
every single one of those. So yeah, they were justified in doing that. But
No,
I
because
know
it's
what you
not
mean.
just about the stats, it's about working together as a team.
Oh, but
and
see how
so-
we always won because I still knew what I was talking about, and
But we
I
also
covered your
wiped.
six.
We also wiped.
That was we also wiped because you put us in a modded server, which is something we could talk about. You get put into these servers, like they're third-party servers. They're not like there are official dedicated servers, but then you have like modded servers where someone, a kid, 8 years
many.
old, 10 years old, maybe, has changed the settings so that there are every time there's a tank, which is like every 10 steps, there are 3 of them. We played through a whole campaign in that modded server. And I will say at the end of No Mercy, we had a really good stand against all that stuff. None of us
Our
died.
placements.
Placement was excellent.
Kenny on
I
the
had Kenny's
Gatling
back.
gun?
Yeah, and I was covering him. A lot of fun, but I hate modded server.
Riff, we're talking about mods and like and creating the server and putting a lot of things, but I know that you maybe have played before, but especially played this week with some of our community members, and y'all did a different kind of mod. Can you kind of explain
God.
to us what you did there?
Teletubbies?
So just a little clarification. There's Left 4 Dead 2, which kind of we may talk about when we get into age, but it kind of takes over a lot of the content for Left 4 Dead 1 and then adds a bunch of other stuff on top of it, including, and I got to be honest, wasn't a big modder because I played this game originally on 360 where they didn't have all this stuff.
Oh.
Apparently, you can replace all the zombies with Teletubbies. You can replace all the graffiti in the safe room with Jaden Smith tweets. You could you can
Yes,
swap out
dude.
the melee weapons for the Buster Sword, all this crazy stuff. So I
That's
know
what
that
they
Darwile
did.
and some of the other
Tweets?
folks were shooting Thomas the Tank Engine and Shrek and I don't know. It's
Yeah, I
it's
logged in
wild.
and watched someone running around with a Keyblade from Kingdom Hearts, and I
Yep.
saw an Among Us character like running around really tiny. It was absolutely absurd.
Well,
Game mods can be ridiculous.
well, that's not me generally, but that's Valve. I love that they allowed for that in
They do.
in this game, and so but to sum that co-op section up a little bit, it's one of those games that I always could come back to, play the same campaign I've always played, and love it because I'm playing with new people that play differently maybe, or like I choose a different gun, which we need to talk about. There are a variety of different weapons that you can actually choose from in this game.
we can get into guns, though they're fairly straightforward. I would
This is
rather
Kenny
talk
saying
about.
no. We're doing
Yeah,
something
I'm
else.
just pivoting. I'm shutting that down. We can talk about guns if you want.
Which he does.
I've been meeting. Fine. Let's talk about it. We'll circle back.
That's
guns.
not
No,
yes
no, no, no.
and Kenny.
Let's
No,
go to
apparently
your
you
topic.
guys
It's
both-
very
apparently
important.
Both
Well,
of you
but
really
it's
want
a
to talk
yes
about the
and.
fact that there's a shotgun and a pistol and
Wow.
an AR type rifle. Like, okay, the guns are like every other game. There's nothing unique about them. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me something interesting about the gunplay.
No, I don't
Go.
want to talk about the guns actually.
Dang. I'm stuck in between because I agree that there's not much to say about them. They don't have different, at least like numerical stats. They don't have a lot of things that other modern games with guns have. But I don't think that's a bad thing. They all still operate differently. You've got a shotgun that does your normal shotgun things. You start with the pistol that has unlimited ammo while the others have limited.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
right.
And then you've also got none of them except one maybe has a scope. So like they intentionally went simple on the guns, but I think that's a great thing because it's not about that. That's just a tool to mow down as many zombies as you
Yes,
can.
absolutely. This
But
is the studio that brought us Team Fortress, like I said earlier, and Counter-Strike. They know how to make different guns and different kind of mechanics. They chose to. There's 5 guns, not including the pistols, and that's what they wanted for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they kept it simple. They gave you some interesting environment variable stuff you could shoot and different things, but that's all relatively straightforward. one thing I am more interested to talk about clearly, because I didn't play enough of this to really get a feel as to how much it affects replay value, but I love the concept, is that there is sort of AI dynamically kind of guiding
Yes. Yep.
sort of the way the level works
Director.
every time you play. Yeah, it's called the director. And so as you play, depending on what's happening, when you find and where you find items, or possibly even like how many enemies there are. I don't know how far this goes or doesn't go, and that's why I wanted to ask. But this concept of a dynamic replayability that is guided by an intelligent AI is super intriguing to me.
Yep. So
How
sorry.
how heavy is that?
So
No, you're good.
So Dustin mentioned earlier that they're kind of like little movies, right? In fact, the campaigns, they're like movie posters. And so Valve named, they kind of were cute. They named their dynamic difficulty AI the director. So like it's the movie director. So the director will do everything like you just said. It'll add healing items if you're not doing well. It'll put guns in different locations. It'll put zombies in different locations. So every time you play a campaign, it's a little bit different. It also does things like there's like a music aspect. So you may notice that there's kind of musical stingers that'll play for certain types of zombies, or just maybe there's no zombies, but it'll play a music stinger there to kind of put a little anxiety in you. And then the other thing it does is kind of tries to keep you at a certain tempo. If you're going really, really fast, it's going to try to throw zombies at you to slow you down. But if you're going really, really slow and being too conservative and checking every single little room to kind of get more items, it's going to say, all right, you got to hurry along. I'm going to send more zombies at you.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes this
so
game
cool.
brilliant.
Well, yeah.
So
I
cool.
even read that like it on separate playthroughs, some doors might be closed and boarded up, whereas on other ones, like if you need more ammo, maybe the door's open and you can go in there and find more ammo. And so like, yeah, it makes each, and maybe this is an age conversation, but it makes each playthrough more. It's replayable because it's always going to be a slightly different experience, or not even slightly, like sometimes a significantly different experience.
Yeah.
Aged.
Playing a co-op first game 15 years after it comes out is where we should probably start this conversation in Aged, because that's risky, especially when it was a PC game, and we all know how PC games tend to age. But this was the Vista era, or XP, Windows XP era, when this would have dropped, which is not as difficult to revisit as Windows 98, 95 or before. But servers being up and active is a thing, and a lot of servers tend to die when it comes to popular games that are getting old, and yet we were still able to play, and I think that's easily, and that's the important thing. Buy it on sale for $2, whatever. Boot it up and go into a campaign with friends or with someone, and I think that is something to be applauded. That's amazing.
I think for Aged, there's some things I really want to gush about because I think they aged very well. There's some things I think did not age well, and the biggest hindrance to this game's age is the fact that there's a second one almost, because there is Left 4 Dead 2. We played Left 4 Dead 1, but Left 4 Dead 2 it contains all the campaigns from Left 4 Dead 1. So really the entire audience from Left 4 Dead 1 really migrated to Left 4 Dead 2. So it's very prescriptive for me to tell you guys, oh no, yeah, you got to play cooperative, but cooperative stuff. So maybe play Left 4 Dead 2, but play Left 4 Dead 1 levels on Left 4 Dead 2. So really trying to get that same experience exactly as it was is difficult.
Let me ask you, Riff. I actually put down in my notes, why play 1 when 2 has all the players and all the content and the upgrades?
Well, Dustin, I'm glad you asked that. This is where I want to gush a little bit, is because I'm in the minority. I think most people do prefer the second one. It has a couple of new things, and it has the content from the first one. But I think the first one shines best in its atmosphere. I think number one, we talked a little bit about story. It's really not a story for zombies. Zombies, that's a story. But the graffiti on the safe room walls, a lot of the sort of like the ecosystem they put around this nightmare world, it feels very real. And I think some people find that boring. Like the campaigns are very like, I'm in a city, I'm in a suburb, where all the campaigns Left 4 Dead 1 are like these crazy, like I'm in a shopping mall, I'm in a carnival. Like they're very, very kind of bombastic, and I like how in Left 4 Dead 1 it's very, very pared down and simplified. It feels very realistic. And the other thing in Left 4 Dead 1, that atmosphere is the sound design. I know a lot of people, when we gush about this game, most people will talk about the competitive, or not competitive, cooperative aspect and how you can, how great that feels. I love the sound design so much in this game. There's great bits of music. We talked about when there's different types of zombies, there's little music that'll play. That haunting, kind of ghostly noise when you're near a
When
witch.
the witch,
Yeah,
so good.
there's that. And also, I mean, the feral, crazy noises the zombies make, the ambient noise. You could be walking through like a city or a field and you hear like machine guns in the distance as there's something going on somewhere. This society is in its death throes and you can just kind of, it's all seeping into your brain. And Left 4 Dead 2, the sound design is very, again, it's less subtle. So there'll be a sound for like when a special infected plays and it just blasts right in your ear. There's no subtlety to it. So the atmosphere, I could just sit and walk around in these levels all day long.
Yeah. Those are great answers and great reasons to play 1 over 2. I want to, you named a few things there. I want to talk about the sound side of things. I thought the soundtrack was unremarkable, but fine. Like it's you want ambiance a lot with this, and
Yes.
I think it was also dynamic, maybe controlled by the director, and so I think that was good. But the thing that I liked most on the sound front, well, I guess two things. The voice acting I thought was solid across the board,
Very good.
This isn't the earliest days of voice acting, but it's still relatively early, and Valve hadn't done, you named some of the ones that preceded this one, great with voice acting before this. We recently revisited Half-Life.
Oh yeah.
Man. But this, very good. All 4 of them nailed it. And then the sound effects. Both of those things, I think, from the zombies, the different special enemies, creating that ambiance, that environment was one of the things they did best here.
Couple things.
They nail atmosphere.
On the voice acting front, so great, but also they did a great job, and this is linked to the director in some ways based on what your characters are doing or where your health is at. They'll talk to each other and just be like, pills over here, Zoe.
Yeah.
Like, great. That just adds to the like co-op, the camaraderie of it all. It's just great. And then too, on the OST sound front, there's nothing like, especially after it was challenging, getting to the safe room, closing it, and hearing that song play.
Oh yeah.
That is the best victory.
Right there.
Oh yeah, that's the best feeling. And then when you beat a campaign, that song is also a jam. And then you get to like, it shows the stats we mentioned, and like it's scrolling like credits, and it'll show like if you're in Discord with your friends, you can be like, oh dude, I knew I was gonna have the most witch damage or something. Like that is great. That whole and that song that's playing is really great too. And so I guess one question though I did have about the atmosphere and the music with that in Left 4 Dead 2, but the campaigns from 1, you're saying that they didn't do the atmosphere as good. They changed things.
They changed things, and they also changed levels in Left 4 Dead 1 in kind of some subtle ways that I don't particularly like.
Got it.
So it's
Okay,
not
so they
even the
did
same
change.
exact. Yeah, there's some minor changes there.
Okay, cool. Got it.
They
I
might
also
be the
think-
type of thing that if someone played, if you didn't play Left 4 Dead 1 as fanatically as I have, you might not notice it as much, but
Exactly,
I
yeah.
do, and it's
Okay.
like it's one of those things where it's painful for me.
I also think that that 2 has day. I don't know if they're cycles, but day and night. And I think in 1 it just had everything was set when it was set. Like
That's
at
a
night.
great point. Yeah, there's not
Yeah.
cycles necessarily, but half the campaigns take place in the daytime. It's just wrong. It just feels wrong.
It just changes it a little bit.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about 1 and even 2. The thing is that both are still supported on Steam. You can get this first one for only $10, but it is often on sale. I had both of them prior to it being pulled, and I hadn't played them before, but I got both 1 and 2 for less than $3 total.
Wow.
So like,
Yeah.
you can get them for $1.29 on many sales.
And like you said, I think a lot of people probably already own them just based
Sure.
on like, oh, I
They
have
don't
to
even
get
know,
that.
right.
You know, yeah, they don't even know.
If you do want a disc for your PC, it's $5 used or loose. It's probably going to be harder to play because, but maybe you just want it for posterity's sake. If you want a new one, it's only $21. So not bad on either of those fronts. If you want it on Xbox 360, then it's $10 used or loose. Well, Riff played on his 360, right?
That's true. Yeah, that is surprising.
Originally, yeah.
And $26 new. So, I mean, completely affordable
It's a cheap
across
game.
the board. Yeah.
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every one of our episodes, we give our final summarized thoughts on the game. We'll conclude with Riff. Nolan, what did you think about Left 4 Dead?
So it's been a while since I've played Left 4 Dead 1 specifically. Like we've already mentioned, Left 4 Dead 2 exists, and generally if I'm going to play the game, I'll boot up 2. And I think that's my recommendation, even after learning from Riff that there were tweaks to some of the important atmospheric things. I think most people won't notice, and you're still getting more content, and it might look a little better because it's newer. And Left 4 Dead 2 is amazing, but revisiting the first one, man, it was so nostalgic, and it's gonna be hard for me to frame this summary up and not sound like it's just nostalgia talking, but we mentioned it, but all three of us got to play, and that is special, and I love when we get to do that anytime, but especially a game like this where it was their first time, and I love the game, so I get to go back. Man, it was a great week with the game. It holds up, just the game itself. If I'm judging it in 2023. Man, it still feels really recent, and it is, but it's still so fun, so playable. Get it cheap. You have to play this game. It's so good.
Kenny?
Yeah, great little title. I had said last week that I thought I'd played some of the second one. I did not. I was thinking of some other zombie game that came out on consoles at some point that I had conflated in my head. So this was my very first time to this series, and so many good surprises. I love the concept of sort of squad first, of kind of intentional co-op gameplay. I think that's the best way today. I know this game is old enough to be retro by our 15-year definition, but it's relatively modern. And so in that era, to get that couch co-op vibe, that I'm going to play something casually with my friends and what they do affects me, and we have to work together, but it's also competitive, and it was just so smart how they implemented this game, and it makes for a really fun gameplay experience. In a sea of zombie related content that's out there, you've got your pick of things to pick from. I think this is a very competitive title to be one of the games that you have to consider playing, no matter what. And so yeah, I had so much fun this week. Great little title. I'm not surprised it came out as a director episode, just because of the kind of game that it was.
I think that any game that we get to play together is going to be fun. We can make any game fun that we get to play together. A complaint often on this podcast is that we're not typically able to do that easily. Unless we're in the same place, sitting at the same TV or whatever the case might be. It's retro games weren't preserved or kept up in such a way to allow us to do that. This is one that was, and it was so easy for us to play together. And
3 button clicks and you're in.
And so it makes it all the more enjoyable. However, the game still needs to have legs on its own merit. I think that this game is incredibly simplistic, but I think its simplicity is its shining feature. I saw someone say this week, it is all killer, no filler. And I think that is the tagline for this game. There is not much nuance to this game. It is pretty straightforward, and you're pretty much doing the same thing on each stage. But the characters, the way that the AI director operates, and then working together as a squad being its core mechanic here, made for a really tight-knit game. It's fun. It was fun to play together. I could see us doing more of that kind of thing. Like, if you want to play a zombie horde type game, this is it. Like, if you want to do a solo experience where it's a little bit slower, a lot more creepier, Resident Evil is kind of the vibe there. But like Dead Rising maybe even. But if you want hordes of zombies that you can mow down with friends, I don't know of a better option. And so yeah, it was a lot of fun this week. Which takes us to Riff, our special guest. Give us your final thoughts on the game that you brought.
Yeah, I have to put up front. I am a freak. I am a weirdo, and that I like the single player as much as I like the co-op. And I know that's not common, but it is because I like that atmosphere so much that I can play the game, and killing zombies is just like a side hustle while I kind of soak in the atmosphere. If you were only playing single player, if you're not me, I think you'll get the impression that this is just it's a single player shooter. Like, why is this? It's fine, I guess, but it's the multiplayer that really can keep you coming back and going up through the different difficulty levels. Once you get to advanced and expert, it's a pretty ridiculous adrenaline rush when you finally get to that safe room or the rescue vehicle at the end of the campaign. And I really don't think there's any game that I'm aware of that has really been able to do it in this way since then. In fact, the studio that made Left 4 Dead tried again with another game called Back 4 Blood.
That's right.
And not so good there. So, even they couldn't kind of recreate their own special sauce that they had for Left 4 Dead. So, we've all said it. Obviously, I believe it because I'm the director for this episode, but you should play it. You should grab a friend and go kill as many zombies as you can.
So much fun. Any game
Well
where
said.
I can lock Kenny in a room and then he can repay me by throwing a Molotov cocktail at my face when I open the door finally is a good game. So thanks for bringing it for us to play this week, Riff. Many in our community played along this week on YouTube. Our poll said 71% yes, it's worth playing today. 8% no, go play something else. Maybe Left 4 Dead 2. And then, why couldn't it have been called Left 5 Dead? And then 21% have never played it before.
Left 5 Dead.
Left 5 Dead me. And then from our community, a lot wrote in. I'll be able to include a few of their thoughts, maybe some of your squad mates, Riff. Harold said, this was my first time playing the game, and I thought I would start slowly with a single-player experience. I got a decent shooter with an okay selection of weapons, decent level design, and pretty smooth gameplay. Nothing too great, especially for someone who isn't a fan of zombie games. The fun started when I saw how one could play the game with friends and ridiculous mods. The most fun I had with the game this week was watching a stream where Clint, Garlisle, Riff, and Super Gamer Guy were playing together. Seeing Clint's screen fill with Teletubbies, which he smashed with a keyblade, while a Majora's Mask moon lit the stage until a Molotov cocktail sent a burning Shrek towards them was glorious.
Okay.
Crazy.
Normally, I would say you're doing it wrong. With Left 4 Dead, yes. Have ridiculous fun.
Watching the Teletubbies run at them was absolutely... And I think, is Shrek the tank?
Yes.
I think...
Has to be.
That's so good. Just a massive Shrek running your
The
direction.
Majora's Mask moon's so unnecessary.
Yeah.
Over them. Reference to Zelda. Okay.
So good.
It's so funny.
Clint said Mario, Homer Simpson, Gordon Freeman, and Sans Undertale walk into a bar to shoot Teletubbies and Thomas the Tank Engine. Left 4 Dead,
Mario was Mario?
and to a greater extent Left 4 Dead 2, is a great multiplayer game that's made infinitely better by the enormous collection of community modifications created to change every possible portion of the game in ways that are silly beyond reason. It's probably the single most replayable game in the Valve collection, and provides some of the most hectic and chaotic gaming experiences available. I'm so glad that we got to get some community multiplayer time this week, and I hope y'all were able to do the same.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'll disagree, but only because Dota. But
You ain't
that's
playing
semantics. I also will say, yeah, I'm in Nolan's camp. If you're a modder, mod it. But even if you don't, this game is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Scotty Clash said, there once in every blue moon comes a game that is so good you buy the console to play it. Left 4 Dead was that game. The game always has you on your toes with enemies constantly getting in your way while you progress. One feature that kept me coming back is the director. The director adds a gameplay element that makes every level unpredictable. The versus mode, though flawed, is a ton of fun with friends. One thing that has aged is the AI. There are times where they take forever to save you, even if they are standing next to you. The best way to that's real life too. The best way to play the game is with your friends or even random people to get the full experience. Even after all these years, I still consider Left 4 Dead as a whole to be the greatest zombie multiplayer game of all time. NGP all the way.
2 quick things. I meant to say earlier, you can play the game and not know the director is a thing.
Sure.
And so it's just seamless, perfect.
Right.
Number 2, versus mode, we didn't talk too much about, is so much fun. It might not seem that way just in description, but playing as a hunter, jumping on players is so fun.
Isn't there a mode? What's survival mode? Is that just where it sends
what it sounds
waves after you?
Yeah, it's just as long as you can last, just holding out.
It's fun too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Finally, the Kentucky Kid said, this game was a couch co-op for my wife and I when we first got together. How romantic. I fondly remember nights of us being broke, eating mac and cheese out of the pot with nothing else, and playing a few rounds. The multiplayer experience here is what this game is about. Single player need not apply. The levels feel the same, more or less. Run, shoot. Here's where the variant zombies will be. Rinse, wash, and repeat. The graphics, I feel, leave something to be desired since the game is newer than both Mass Effect and BioShock, which had previously been covered. The music is, well, stereotypical of the genre, as are the character tropes. All that being said, the multiplayer experience still holds up, and I do believe the game is worth a play these days. NGP for me.
I got a quick caution there on playing Left 4 Dead with a spouse. I played this game once with my wife. It didn't end well. I literally left her for dead. I ran to the chopper. She couldn't make it. She was lagging, all right? You got to keep up.
She was lagging.
And I cannot mention this game without her saying, oh, is that the one where you left me to die? And
it's in the name.
Exactly.
Sounds like Nolan leaving us.
For half a second, I didn't realize he was talking about in the game. And I was like, y'all broke up over this game? Like, we need the whole story here, not just... But I understand now, so... Glad it wasn't the way I heard it.
For now, we are setting aside Left 4 Dead, and we are going to randomly select the game that we're going to be playing for the next 7 days. Riff, what do you hope that game is?
Oh, I got a couple on the Retro Master list, so if it was one of those, back-to-back Riff episodes would be a very merry Riff miss.
Will it be our third zombie game in a row? Randomizing now. We are going to be playing a video game from 1991 that was developed by Kid and published in Japan by VAP and North America by NTVIC, in Europe by Nintendo, and it was designed by G Baba.
Okay, then.
Oh, G Baba.
Obvious.
You don't know G Baba?
Easy.
It falls into the shooter genre, although its gameplay includes elements reminiscent of platforming. It came out on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Oh, hold on. I got to read this. The game is shown entirely from an overhead isometric perspective, similar to games like Diablo. I don't
believe that.
It just included Diablo for its isometric view. Like, there's plenty of others.
Yeah, that's not going to be a good comparison.
The game that we're going to be playing for the next 7 days is called Isolated Warrior.
Oh, no. They put it in the title, too?
Oh, no.
Isolated?
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
ISO not elated about this title.
I was gonna
See,
use
that's
that.
a segue.
I was going to use that for the pun segue, buddy.
Oh.
Well, I ruined it for you already.
I don't want to play this.
Well,
Riff, do you know this game?
We'll find
no,
out.
he doesn't know this game.
No,
he knows G Baba.
Yeah, everyone knows G Baba. Yeah.
Come on, dude. G Baba.
I think I'm going to have. There may be a lot of Left 4 Dead in the next week as well.
Hey,
yeah,
it's always good. Kenny?
Actually, modded Left 4 Dead sounds so hype. I might play some too.
Kenny, Final Fantasy IX progress, real quick.
Still playing.
Okay.
Got my airship.
Oh, there's an airship.
Oh, big.
Find a copy of Isolated Warrior and play it along with us this next week.
I so pale. Join us in Discord. We have a thriving server. and you can be a part of it for free. All you have to do is go to discord.gg/newgameplus.
You can also support us on patreon.com, not for free, to vote with your wallet on getting more excellent retro gaming entertainment coming to your ears every single week. You will be joining a large and growing community of people who support our show, including our wonderful producers, Alex, Amarlian, Antonin, Ben, Big Dude, Garlisle, Gimbin, Hallex, Harold, J. Robert, Jake, Jared, Joey, Jordan, Justin, Kenny's Beard, Glenn, Nick, Nat, Corey, Levi, Maxima, Metroid, Nolan's Old Mustache, Not Enough Dog, Orlando Workin' Punch, Pedro, Sajid, Shane, Shauna, Psycho Mantis, The Kentucky Kid, Thomas, Turtle, Unbelievable, and Zion. We want to say thank you to our director level supporters again, who truly go above and beyond in what you do. Bro Jim, Super Hyperbird, Siegfried, Arline Yuki, and of course, Riff. Thank you for being a director and for coming, being on the show, sharing your time and this awesome game with us. We appreciate it.
I don't want to belabor the point, but are you not going in alphabetical order with our directors anymore?
No, producers get alphabetical order. Directors get whatever order I want. I do what I want.
We know.
Also,
And that's the end of
Megatroid.
it. Yes.
Did he say it wrong again?
No, I said it right.
Check the tape.
I'm pretty sure I
tape.
said it
Megazoid.
right. I'm pretty certain I said it right, but I may not have.
Check the tape.
We'll see. I have big news though. Before I'm done with this segment, we have a new director level supporter that just hit this week.
Oh,
I already shouted him out as one of our producers, but he has bumped his support up. And so we want to say thank you to the Kentucky Kid for joining us as a director. Can't wait to get you on the show, get to talk to you, get to play a game of your choice. It's going to be so fun.
what if it's Left 4 Dead 2?
You can follow us on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, YouTube. The links are in the show notes. And last time, post your Wrapped if we are included in that, or your end of year stats for podcast listening. If we're included in that, we'd love to repost that and then also mention it on our Christmas cast that is just around the corner. Make sure you listen to us directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. Our video episode was edited by our friend Dylan. Our audio episode was edited and produced by our friend Dan Willett. Join us next week as we play Isolated Warrior. Before we sign off, Riff, is there anywhere you would like our listeners to find you online?
Just come to the Discord. I'm not a big, online guy. I'm kind of nervous about, talking to strangers, but actually it's a very welcoming community. So I encourage everyone to come join.
Well, we're so glad that you are here and a part of us. Thank you for being a part of the community, and thank you for being a director and bringing to us Left 4 Dead. My first time playing it, Kenny's first time playing it.
Amazing.
So you changed us.
Perfect.
Until next time, I am still Zoe.
I'm still Bill.
Lewis.
Riff?
Also still Zoe.
Nice. And this has been New Game Plus.